Welcome to Mock the Mock, where we take a look at someone else's mock draft and I'm mocking, giving you my views, thoughts, and opinions. I got a great one for you. We're going to be traveling over to ESPN, taking a look at Field Yates and his mock draft. I don't know if this is his first mock draft during the year. Well, I guess it might be the first one of 2025, but let's go ahead and just dive into this sucker. Set draft order. Let's see if we see any shenanigans, maybe some trades. Oh wow, pick one. Tennessee Titans are going to go with Travis Hunter, corner/wide receiver out of Colorado. Now, I do think this might be a little less unlikely, and I get you're pulling from like the GM, right? The GM said, we're not going to pass up on a generational prospect. Well, if that generational prospect is mainly going to be a corner, you probably feel you're already feeling really good at corner. Even if he is going to run like maybe 10 to 20 routes for you per game. And that's the thing. Hunter came out and said, he's going to be running in the cornerback group at the combine. Does that mean he's going to be a corner in the NFL? No, not necessarily, but I think I don't know exactly what he wants to be viewed as, but I think a majority of people view him as a full-time corner that's going to run 10 to 20 routes for you per game, because I think that's a hell of a lot easier than being a full-time wide receiver and then playing like 10 to 20 snaps on defense where you have to know the whole defense. I don't think he's going to do full-time on both sides of the football. I don't think this man's playing over 100 snaps a game, 120 snaps a game. I just don't think that's sustainable in a very physical and tough NFL. With that being the case, I could see Abdul Carter maybe for the Titans if they view him as generational. But I think if you're the Titans, take the swing at quarterback. You're here at number one unless you get a really good offer to move down. Because again, you don't have to draft a quarterback in this class necessarily. Pick 2, Cleveland Browns. They're going to take Abdul Carter, edge out of Penn State. This is actually one of my favorite picks for the Browns. I like the idea of them, hey, if you're going to move Myles Garrett, go ahead, grab Abdul Carter. Even if they don't move Myles Garrett, adding Abdul Carter across from him is super alluring. However, I do think we're going to see Cleveland go a little bit in like fire sale mode. They're going to move Myles Garrett. Of course, the team that's taking Garrett, I think they're going to have to financially figure that out, so it makes sense for the Browns. But I think we're going to see them maybe move off some of their corners, whether that's off of Denzel Ward's contract or avoiding having to pay like Martin Emerson or Greg Newsome, because those are two guys with contracts coming up as well. Or at least they got one more year, I believe, on their contracts. So I don't think quarterback's the call here for the Browns. Listen, you're probably going to be a bad team next year. Just be a bad team and hope that next year's quarterback class is more alluring. I mean, to be fair, these teams are already currently doing the homework on next year's class. They've already wrapped up with this year's class. So they'll know by draft time, let's not take a quarterback early this year. Next year is going to be much better for us. So we'll see. Pick 3, New York Giants. They go Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami. Just for me, if we're doing if this is what I would do, then yes, I'd take Cam Ward over Shedeur Sanders. Just with how much homework the Giants have done with Shedeur Sanders, it just kind of feels like he's going to be the pick there. It really does. But quarterback is the call for the Giants nonetheless. The front office is very unhappy, and basically Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, their butts are on the grill right now. Okay, we got pick 4. That's going to be the New England Patriots taking Will Campbell, offensive tackle out of LSU. This has become a popular pick for the Patriots. I get the idea of, hey, we need a lot of offensive line help. We might not be able to get all that via free agency, especially if some of the top tackles end up like re-signing or not even being available. Maybe they get hit with franchise tags. I doubt that. But I do see guys like Alaric Jackson, maybe even Ronnie Stanley going back with their squads. But I think I'd rather the Patriots trade down. Just because, like, maybe, you know what it is? I think the NFL, maybe people with their ear to the NFL are a bit higher on Will Campbell. Not to say I'm not. I think he's like 9 on my big board. But it's like, some people are still fighting with that idea. Is he a tackle? Is he a guard? And honestly, if you're the Patriots, you probably don't even care. Just give us a good offensive lineman. And if, like, for real, I think he's a tackle in the NFL. He might have suboptimal arm length, but, like, I don't like how tall he plays. I think that might be a problem at guard. At 6'6", I think leverage is going to be a huge problem for him. Moving to guard, I'd rather have that problem out there at tackle, where I know he is a very cerebral player who can play out in space. But before we get to pick 5, let's give a shout out to our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Just because the NFL season's gone doesn't mean that you can't play other things. We got the NBA, MLB will be back soon enough. And fortunately for Underdog Fantasy, the games don't stop. Because I mean, they'll do cricket, they do esports, for goodness sake. So if you want to get in on some of the action over at Underdog Fantasy, whether that's my favorite there is their pick'ems, where you pick higher and lower on player stats, then go ahead, sign up for that sucker, use promo code BROSHMO, and they will match your first deposit up to $1,000 dues. So get in on that offer now, because I imagine now with the NFL in the side view, it's probably not going to be as good. So get in on that sucker now. But as always, play responsibly, play within your means. Pick 5, Jacksonville Jaguars. They're going Mason Graham. For me, they're going with the Michigan prospect here, whether it's Mason Graham or Will Johnson. I think both are good fits for the defense. I typically lean Will Johnson just because I think their corner 2 situation is the pants, but I get it if you have Mason Graham higher than Will Johnson. Pick 6, Shedeur Sanders going to the Las Vegas Raiders, quarterback out of Colorado. Shedeur and Tom Brady have a rapport. Las Vegas is a big market for the Sanders family, and you don't even have to start him right away. I imagine with Pete Carroll and company there, they're probably going to go out and get like a Russell Wilson to be the starter early on. That way you don't have to throw Shedeur Sanders to the Wolves, and they can take their time to develop him over the course of a season. I can honestly see that happening. So I actually kind of like it. I like it better as long as the Raiders don't have to move up and expend draft capital for it. But this is an offensive line that is slowly developing into a top 10 unit, in my opinion. I think we could see that this season. And if you can get the quarterback, golly gee, man, sky's the limit. Also got to get some playmakers in this draft. New York Jets go with Mikael Williams, edge out of Georgia. So the Jets are officially moving on from Aaron Rodgers. I don't think they're going to necessarily find his successor in this class just yet. So they might go in a different direction. Mikael Williams, right now, I get it. People love the tools. Like, he is probably the most physically gifted edge player in this class. It's just that potential hasn't turned into production quite yet. This year, we were hoping to get a better look at that. He was kind of hampered by the high ankle sprain. But I mean, they got Jermaine Johnson there, who's coming off an Achilles injury. They got Will McDonald. I still like the idea of Will Johnson. From what I've seen from recent mock drafts, from people who do have that ear to the NFL, I do see Will Johnson dropping out of the top 10 quite a bit. So could be something there. All right, we got pick 8. Carolina Panthers take Jalen Walker, linebacker / edge, out of Georgia. I'm a big Jalen Walker fan. I think you want to kind of focus on him being an edge rusher, because he's pretty raw when it comes to his pass rush and his pass rush game plan, his moves in general. Just because he hasn't played a lot of snaps, like significant snaps. As a pure edge, man, he's bouncing around all over the place. He came into the year with all of 240 snaps to his name, though they were pretty darn impressive. And then this season, he looked really good in spurts, but they did move him around. So you are getting someone that you can use in a versatile manner. but I do think you want to kind of focus in on him as a pass rusher. Carolina Panthers, they need to increase that ceiling of talent on defense because it's not that good. It's not that good. You like the NFL draft. Matter of fact, you love the NFL draft, which means you're going to love my draft guide. If you want to know every player your team drafts or even signs as an undrafted free agent, then this is for you. My draft guide updates every day, and you'll be able to see those updates in real time as I add new evals and player backgrounds. It'll have analytics from this year and last year. It'll have the pro day and combine numbers. It'll even have my notes from the senior and Shrine Bowl. It's a one-time purchase of $30 via PayPal, Venmo, or the Cash App. You can check out the pinned comment or the description if you want to follow those links. And when you do purchase it, please be sure to include your email because it is a Google spreadsheet. So I'm going to require email. Don't make me hunt it down because I will hunt you down. I will find you and I'll make sure you get your money's worth. Anywho, thanks for supporting the channel. The Saints here at pick 9 get Tetairoa McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona. Very good pick in my opinion. They just don't have that type of wide receiver on the roster. Big, can go up and make the contested catch. And I mean, McMillan's going to be that guy. He's not just a jump ball guy. He's a very smooth route runner. And just with his long frame, he's just able to high point the football and just pluck it out of air over defenders. But also, he's sturdy. He's kind of hard to bring down. He's strong. So pairing him up with a Chris Olave who has missed time with concussions, pairing him up with a Rashid Shaheed who is coming off the meniscus injury. I don't mind it, man. I don't mind it. Saints are kind of in a just take the best player available situation, in my opinion. All right, Big 10. Kelvin Banks, tackle out of Texas, going to the Bears. Yeah, I like it. It's fun, man. Whether you see him as a guard or as a tackle, you can get him in there and figure it out, right? I think the Bears are going to make a strong push in free agency when it comes to the offensive line because Ben Johnson's like, hey, the place I came from had like a top 3 offensive line in the league. We need to get there. And so I think we're going to see a strong push. So that might not necessarily mean it's just free agency. Maybe we do see it early in the draft. Kelvin Banks, love him as a player. There's going to be questions about the foot speed. Can he play on an island? I'm not too worried about that in Ben Johnson's system because there's a lot of variety there and you could really play to your player's strengths. So this could be a move Braxton Jones because I feel like if you're drafting Kelvin Banks to be an offensive tackle, then I would assume that in this same draft, if you see him as a tackle, then you move Braxton Jones to a tackle needy team. Okay, pick 11. Josh Simmons going to the 49ers. Trent Williams, he'll be 24 in July, or 37, excuse me, 24. Golly, so young. But 37, he missed some time this last season with an ankle injury, I believe. It's time to find that heir apparent, man. It's time for him to start mentoring some guy. Josh Simmons probably would be talked about much higher if not for the ACL injury that's going to likely cost him the off-season process, but he's going to be good to go by training camp. What he put on tape, I think, is encouraging enough for him to go somewhere in the first round. Pick 12 is the Dallas Cowboys. They do not go Ashton Jeanty. All right, Ashton Jeanty. Now we're on Ashton Jeanty watch. Broncos. Let's just call it Broncos. Cowboys take Will Johnson. Interesting. Okay, there's some good points here. Trevon Diggs is recovering from a knee injury that required surgery. Deron Bland has 1 year left on his rookie deal. Jordan Lewis will be a free agent this March, which he's playing in the slot, so it's kind of is what it is. So maybe you do look to the future. And if anything, like it's best player available here. You grab Will Johnson, and I'm probably looking to move Trevon Diggs if I can, if his contract will allow me. Because Deron Bland's probably the dude I want to keep in tow here. Let me go grab Gojo real quick. What do you think of Will Johnson to the Cowboys, Gojo? You like it? He's got no opinion. Pick 13 is my Miami Dolphins. They go Tyler Booker, guard out of Alabama. I like Booker a ton. Prior to the season, I had him as kind of this like probably back end of the first round talent. So like they had the later part of the first round. Here at 13 feels really rich. Then again, I'm always talking about grabbing Armand Membu and start him at guard. And I mean, to be fair, dude, Tua needs help. Just Tua needs help. So I don't mind it, actually. I don't mind it. I like Booker a lot. He cleaned up his body this past season, but he still kept that physicality and movement skills. I'm game for it. You know what? I'm game for it. Would I rather just trade back, acquire some draft capital later in the draft? Probably. But I'm okay with this. Pick 14, Tyler Warren. Tight end out of Penn State going to the Colts. This is another one that's kind of like chalky. As in like people are writing this one in pin. They love this one in mock drafts. The tight end or the Colts, excuse me. They don't have tight ends. They just don't. Jelani Woods can't stay healthy, unfortunately. I think Mo Alley Cox and Colin Granson are free agents. They have Drew Ogletree. So I get it. I get it. Tyler Warren, banger season. You want to get in on that. It's just, I always question how valuable is that going to be truly to this offense? I don't know. We'll see. 15. It's going to be Micah Green, edge out of Marshall, going to the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons need pass rush. We already know this. They get a good one here. I mean, I'm starting to get on board with, hey, Falcons. Honestly, if there's not an edge you love on the board here at 15, it's such a good class. You could just wait till the second round. You really can. So, but I mean, Mike Green being available at 15, I think I would send it there. Pick 16, Shamar Stewart, edge out of Texas A&M, going to the Cardinals. So they do. Darius Robinson was working more inside than outside when he returned from injury. I think he ended up only playing 6 games. I think Shamar Stewart, you grab him here and he's exclusively going to be an edge player that you could maybe move around. I mean, I think he'd be a good fit for Gannon's defense. And in general, like, you just get better players on the defensive line. Shamar Stewart is that. 6'6", 281, great length. Really good explosiveness at that size. He showed out at the Senior Bowl. Pick 17, Cincinnati Bengals go with Walter Nolan. Defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. This is my dude. I love Walter Nolan. He's a former 5-star who is living up to that pedigree. He is both athletically and physically dominating. And sky's the limit with him. Bengals just need to get better on defense, and particularly when it comes to the defensive line and the pass rush. I think Walter Nolan helps you achieve that. Seattle Seahawks are going to go Armand Membu, tackle / guard out of Missouri. I think he can make it as a tackle, but I think in this scenario, you're kind of hoping Abraham Lucas stays healthy, and Membu's going to be one of your guard spots. If Lucas goes down, this is great. Membu, he has experience playing right tackle. They're at Missouri, you kick him out. This is actually, I really like the fit here. I really do. Okay, we got pick 19, James Pierce Jr., edge out of Tennessee, going to the Buccaneers. Buccaneers, another one of these teams that you look at and you're like, just freaking draft pass rush. Come on, man. James Pierce Jr., to me, is a fringe top 10 talent. He needs to add more weight, but he's a true junior. He's still developing his body. I think he's the most explosive pass rusher in this class. I think that's going to be proven true at the combine. And I thought he did improve in terms of run defense. So I liked a lot of what I saw from him this past season. Pick 20, Denver Broncos go Ashton Jeanty. Called it. I knew it. Saw the future. It was kind of obvious. Ashton Jeanty, run back out of Boise State, going to the Broncos. Currently, Javonte Williams is a free agent. They got Audric Estime. They got Jaleel. Oh, gosh, I'm blanking on his name. McLaughlin, I think. I don't know. Either way, neither of those guys are going to prevent me from drafting a running back. Neither of those guys I look at and I think are the answer necessarily. Like, you can make a case for Estime, but even then it's like, no, we need to pair him up with somebody. Like, we need more talent here. I know you're doing it in the first round, but you're also doing it with the best running back in this class. He's arguably going to be in the top 10 of most people's boards because he's just that talented. 0.4 missed tackles forced every carry is an elite rate. It's a ludicrous rate. And he had over 5 yards, averaged over 5 yards after contact. Another insanely elite rate. Ashton Genty is the guy. He is him. And he has one of my favorite builds for the running back position, and that's of a bowling ball. I love that. He's like 5'9", 215. Okay, Pittsburgh Steelers. They go with Jackson Dart, quarterback at Ole Miss. Yo, okay. This is kind of gonna sound kind of bad because I love Jackson Dart. He's my quarterback 3. I'm a big fan. I don't think I'd take him in the first round though. This feels pretty like a Kenny Pickett pick. Because Kenny Pickett, like, no lie, I have Kenny Pickett where he was on my big board. It was about like 50, 51. I think that's where I have Jackson Dart off the top of my head. I'm pretty confident that's where around the same range. There's just too much deja vu. If you're the Steelers, just go out, get Aaron Rodgers or something. Like, bring back Russell Wilson. I don't think you take a quarterback in the first round. I just don't think you do. Address other areas. Wide receiver, corner, defensive line. Do something else, guys. Just do something else. And I love Jackson Dart. He might end up working out, which I hope. But, I mean, there's going to be a bit of a learning curve coming from Lane Kiffin's offense. There's just is. Pick 22, Los Angeles Chargers are going to go with Colson Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. And a lot of people love making this pick for the Chargers. Well, okay, to be fair, most people in mock drafts, they just love fit in. They just love fit in Jim Harbaugh with one of his former Michigan guys, and I don't blame him. I get it. It makes sense. He's familiar with those players, but Loveland is a legit first round talent. Just as a pass catcher from the tight end position, I think he is the bee's freaking knees. He is a mismatch weapon, and he's someone that I think attacks the ball well in air. Though, put on some mass because I think he does struggle at the catch point a little bit. Really struggle with physicality at the catch point. But the Chargers need pass catchers. They're not getting it from the tight end position. Sorry, Will Disley. I love Will Disley, but sorry. Get a legit weapon here. Help Justin Herbert out. Green Bay Packers are going to go with Maxwell Harrison, corner out of Kentucky. I like this low key. So currently, I would say the Packers have smaller corners. And I think Halfley probably wants to move to guys with a bit better size. Maxwell Harrison isn't a guy with better size, but I love this dude's physicality that he plays with. He's great for the scheme. Don't get me wrong. Legit ball skills, willing and able to come and play the run really well. You know what? Maybe size be darned. Maybe my wife was right. To hell with size. Pick 24. We got the Minnesota Vikings taking Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon. I actually like this quite a bit. You get a legit penetrator in that defense. I mean, it's kind of what they're looking for. They want these guys to just, get up the field and make a play in the backfield. And they're kind of missing that from the defensive interior. It's kind of got to be schemed up via, blitzes and extra pressure. Derek Harmon, I think, provides a guy that can do that by himself. I think he had one of the highest win rates from the defensive interior position. It was about 17.6. 55 pressures, 5 sacks this past year. Hell yeah, man. This dude gets the job done. Pick 25, Houston Texans take Luther Burden. Ooh, this is a fascinating one. Wide receiver out of Missouri. I kind of like Emeka Ibuka reuniting CJ Stroud and Emeka. I mean, they go way back. They still talk about their Ohio State days. Oh, so beautiful. I do get Luther Burden though, kind of like this, just crazy with a crazy elusive player with really good yak ability. Their OC. I'm fairly confident they just promoted a guy, right? Was it like Nick Caley? Yeah, Nick Caley. They promoted him within, right? Oh no, he was with the Rams last year. Okay. See, I was thinking Bobby Slowick, Kyle Shanahan, but it's Caley and Sean McVay. So yeah, I mean, dude, back with the Rams, they love those guys that get great after the catch. They really do. I don't mind the fit, man. I don't mind the fit. I do daydream though of CJ Stroud once again finding his target from his Ohio State days. Pick 26, Josh Connerly Jr. Tackle out of Oregon going to the Rams. Kind of depends on what they do with Alaric Jackson. You could also look at right tackle. You'd be like, Rob Havenstein, you're like 32, 33. Maybe we should start looking for your heir apparent. So I get it. Connerly, I love the movement skills of this dude. He needs to work on his anchor when he's threatened with speed, like guys that can convert speed to power. But he had one hell of a year there for Oregon. Baltimore Ravens go with, I forgot Malachi Starks was even on the board still. I legit forgot that Malachi Starks was on the board. I guess when in Baltimore, you can never have enough safeties. And I mean, I get it. They did bench Marcus Williams. They're probably going to get off his contract this year. They have Ardarius Washington, Kyle Hamilton, but they like having three safeties. But to be fair, they played Marlon Humphrey quite a bit in the slot. And Malachi Starks is honestly a guy you could kind of bounce all around the defensive secondary. I mean, where else do you go here? Pass rush, maybe? You got Nick Scorton still on the board. Michael Pierce, he missed some games last year, right? But I mean, they're really happy with Travis Jones, which good. I really liked Jones coming out of UConn. So I was trying to like maybe talk myself into like a Kenneth Grant. Maybe you just go with the corner. Maybe just go with the corner here. But I mean, there's no denying he's the best player on the board. So can't hate it. Detroit Lions go with Gray Zabel, guard / center at North Dakota State. I actually like this quite a bit because you got Frank Ragnow. He's not even 30 yet, but he's dealt with a lot of injuries. So, I mean, when you're playing in the trenches, you're getting beat up. You're getting beat up. And Ragnow might be there right now. Kevin Zeitler's a free agent, though. I think they might send it with Christian Mahogany. But Zabel at least gives you some depth and a future heir apparent. Again, it kind of depends with where Frank Ragnow is. And I'm sure he's been talking with the organization about that. So they got a timeline. There. Washington Commanders, they go with Emeka Ibuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State. This is actually a phenomenal pickup. Jaden Daniels used Zacchaeus too much than I'd care for. Be like, you know what? Let's get a better receiver in that role. Emeka Ibuka would be that better receiver in that role. And look at that, Jaden Daniels now just throwing to Ohio State wide receivers. Huh. Buffalo Bills go with Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan. They do need a big, meaty boy. Daquan Jones is up there in years. They have tried to draft some guys, but still, I don't think they have someone who is girthy and can play the run really well just by being a big space eater. But I mean, Kenneth Grant's also very explosive, can push the pocket. Pair him up with Ed Oliver. Sounds scary as hell. Kansas City Chiefs are going to go with Donovan Jackson. Tackle / guard at Ohio State. I like this. Draft him and then just figure out where he is best at. Is he going to be taken over for Trey Smith? Or is he our tackle of the future? Because his first start at tackle was a nightmare against Abdul Carter. But then he was kind of good. He had one of the, he might have been the MVP, in my opinion, for Ohio State. Because he whipped together a very strong college football playoff on their way to a championship. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, man. I really don't. And then finally, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. They take Jahad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama. I was about to say, let's see if they have a second round. They do not. Say they. Field Yates does not have a second round included here. So I get Zach Bond's about to be a free agent. He also notes that you got Nakobe Dean coming off a patellar tendon injury. I think they bring back Zach Bond. I truly do. If not, then Jahad Campbell would be a guy to go after. Most certainly. Someone who's much like Zach Bond. Zach Bond entered the league. Are you an edge or are you a linebacker? And the Saints just did a real bad job with trying to develop him in one area and just kind of you know what? Do both for us. The minute he gets to Vic Fangio, it's like, yeah, no, you're going to mainly be an off-ball linebacker, but every now and then we'll have you come in as a blitzer. Suddenly, all-pro player. Freaking wild. He's going to get the bank this year. He deserves it. I do think the Eagles, though, bring him back. I have a whole theory on how the Eagles off-season's going to look. And basically, it's bring back Mekhi Becton, bring back Zach Bond, and then you've been preparing for guys like Josh Sweat and Milton Williams to leave. I would say just let those guys leave because they're going to be very expensive. Very expensive. But that's mock draft. Go ahead. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Special thanks to our friends over at Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring today's video. Remember, when you download the app, sign up using promo code Broshmo. But as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.